MTR land for tendering in Tongchong fails to attract a single bidder. Our government booking system for sporting facility faces hiccup. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The city witnessed one more failed tender for a development project this month. It involved a Tongchong MTR development. No developer filed a tender to bid for the site. Yet another failed land auction for another development project in Tongchong in just 1 week. Marking the latest blow to the city's land sales target is this plot of land next to the soon-to-be-built Tongchong East MTR station. This first phase of the property development project is set to provide 1,200 residential units and a shopping mall with a floor area spanning about 87,000 square feet. The MTR Corporation received no tender from any developers. Stuart Lunchi-Kin, chairman of the Real Estate Developers Association, said the tender required the developers to build a commercial area. With an uncertain economic situation down the road and a higher cost, Leung said it's understandable developers didn't bid for the site. In the same district, Area 106B, this government land for private residential development also had its tender withdrawn early this month. That's after all 4 bids from developers went below the reserve price. Midland Surveyors Director Elvin Lam Chi-pun said railside property development projects retain their appeal, but developers tend to hold off the bidding as there is still some time before the new MTR stations complete their construction. Early this year, the first phase of development near Siu-Ho 1 MTR station also witnessed failed tender bids. Other recent unsuccessful tenders include Cape Rose Stanley, plots in Yao Kam Tao and Chunwan earmarked to build starter homes, and Kuntang Town Center development projects areas 4 and 5. A worker died today after being injured by a fallen wall which was being demolished in Chunwan. An occupational safety and health expert said the current law does not require a supervisor or structural expert to be present during village house demolition. Mimosanai reports.
This is Zhongkwai-chong village where the accident happened. On Wednesday morning, a 62-year-old male worker was in the midst of the demolition of a village house. 3 concrete blocks fell and hit the man, who became unconscious. The worker was sent to hospital but was later pronounced dead. A similar accident happened 3 months ago in Yunnan when a 40-year-old man was killed after a wall of a village house collapsed on top of him. Lee Kwon-sing, a safety advisor of the Contractors Industry Employees General Union, said the current law does not require a supervisor or structural engineer to be present at a village house demolition. Lee said workers, even experienced ones, face various risks when they demolish a house. In April, the amended Occupational Safety and Occupational Health Legislation Ordinance was enacted. Under the law change, the punishment for occupational safety and health offences was significantly increased to a possible 2-year prison sentence and a maximum fine of $10 million. Siu Xin-mun, chief executive of the Association for the Rights of Industrial Accident Victims, said around 30 cases of labor deaths have been recorded since the implementation of the new ordinance. She said it is too early to say whether the changes are enough of a deterrent when no punishments have yet been decided. Nonetheless, Siu said workers and employers should increase their safety awareness. Memos 9, TVB News.
A new intelligent booking and information system of the Leisure and Cultural Services Department, Smartplay, was launched today, but there seems to be a hiccup. Under the new system, residents can check the availability of leisure facilities and make advance bookings on a first-come, first-served basis. LCSD said individuals must register and finish the verification stage before being allowed into the system. However, TVB News tried but could not get on the system via I Am Smart, a platform for people using online services of government departments and commercial organizations. Speaking at the Legislative Council today, Undersecretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry Lillian Chung said the department had already contacted the LCSD regarding the matter. 2 men will appear in court having been charged with drug trafficking offenses after a crackdown on seafaring vessels. The 318 kilograms of suspected cocaine seized were stored inside life jackets and waterproof bags. The drugs have an estimated market value of about $390 million. The seizure came after police received reports that 2 men who were non-sailors were identified on a vessel registered in Hong Kong and departing from South America. Officers suspect they were trying to smuggle drugs and throw them into the sea for others to pick up. A 24-year-old local man and a 19-year-old Ecuadorian man were charged with trafficking dangerous drugs. The case will be heard in the West Kowloon Magistrates Court on Friday. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit will kick off in San Francisco on November 15th. Ahead of the high-level summit, the China-United States Exchange Foundation is holding a 2-day forum in Hong Kong on Sino-U.S. ties. In video remarks, both the Chinese and American ambassadors said the two countries do not seek to decouple from each other.
To move toward San Francisco, it is important to return to the Bali Consensus. The United States does not seek to change China's system, does not seek a new Cold War, does not support Taiwan independence, does not support two Chinas or one China, one Taiwan, and has no intention to seek decoupling from China or to halt China's economic development. A good host needs to avoid creating any new trouble or obstacle. As the world is emerging from the pandemic, China-US relations also need to come out of the woods.
We do not seek to decouple our two economies. In the words of Secretary Yellen, that would be disastrous, and it would run counter to our national interests. China, we believe, needs to open its markets further and provide a level playing field for U.S. businesses. We will also not back down from advocating for our values, including freedom of navigation and rule of international law in the South China Sea, peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, and the need for all to be committed to a peaceful solution. Our deep and cherished commitments to human rights and human freedom. These objectives do not need to be mutually exclusive.
There are more reports today that President Xi Jinping and U.S. leader Joe Biden will meet face-to-face at the APEC summit in San Francisco next week. Several U.S. media outlets say the two are preparing to announce the resumption of military-to-military communication. Discussions were halted last year when the then U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi paid a visit to Taiwan. China's Civil Aviation Administration has increased the number of direct flights between China and the U.S. to 70 a week. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken held talks with leading figures in the South Korean government in Seoul today. High on the agenda was North Korea's nuclear program and Pyongyang's alleged support for Russia as Moscow continues its war in Ukraine. Blinken said China should use its influence on North Korea to pull Pyongyang back from what he called irresponsible and dangerous behavior.
China has a unique relationship with North Korea. As a result of that relationship, it has real influence, and we do look to China to use that influence to play a constructive role in pulling North Korea back from this irresponsible and dangerous behavior. In terms of the support that Russia may be providing to the DPRK, this is something that we're watching very, very closely, very, very carefully. And of course, we have real concerns about any support for North Korea's ballistic missile programs, for its nuclear technology, for its space launch capacity.
Blinken also said Russia should uphold United Nations Security Council resolutions not to supply any support for North Korea's missile programs. The U.S. Secretary of State arrived in South Korea on Wednesday after a meeting in Japan of G7 foreign ministers. There he told a news conference that Washington remains focused on the Indo-Pacific despite other global challenges, including the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Still ahead, Chief Executive John Lee reports encouraging response to talent-attracting schemes. Donald Trump skips Republican presidential debate again while mocking participants. 3 giant pandas are returning to China after a lengthy stay in the U.S. Welcome back. The government has received at least 180,000 applications so far from foreign talent who wish to come to Hong Kong to work. Among them, 110,000 applications have been approved. Chief Executive John Lee said about 70,000 of them have already moved to the SAR. Sharon Tang has more.
Finding talent to help the city's economic development is one of the government's top priorities. Chief Executive John Lee and Secretary for Labor and Welfare Chris Sun today attended the founding ceremony of the Top Talent Services Association. The group comprises of Peking University, Tsinghua University, as well as other institutions on the mainland, has been set up to help talents better integrate into Hong Kong. During his keynote speech, the CE said all of the city's talent import schemes have received overwhelming responses. So far this year, 70,000 have already set foot in Hong Kong. John Lee said that's double the original target. He continued that this is proof the city is highly attractive and internationally competitive in terms of luring global talents. He said authorities will continue to improve measures to attract people. Meanwhile, the Hong Kong Talent Engage office set up last month will help overseas talent develop in the city in the long run. Up until the end of September, the Top Talent Pass scheme has received around 55,000 applications. Most of them have been approved. Secretary for Labor and Welfare Chris Sun said 1/3 of the applicants are below the age of 30, and 70% of them are 40 or below. Sun said having young people come to Hong Kong is particularly important because of the aging population. He added that they could bring their family with them, which Sun says can make the city more vibrant. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
In the U.S., a third debate took place among potential Republican presidential candidates. Former President Donald Trump was once again absent. Danny Rao tells us more.
Hosted by NBC News, the third Republican presidential debate opened with the shadow of Donald Trump looming large over the proceedings. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie all took part in Miami. DeSantis and Haley are considered more popular among these hopefuls. They had different takes on Trump.
Donald Trump's a lot different guy than he was in 2016. He owes it to you to be on this stage and explain why he should get another chance. He should explain why he didn't have Mexico pay for the border wall. He should explain why he racked up so much debt.
I can talk about President Trump. I can tell you that I think he was the right president at the right time. I don't think he's the right president now. I think that he put us $8 trillion in debt, and our kids are never going to forgive us for that. I think the fact that he used to be right on Ukraine and foreign issues, now he's getting weak in the knees and trying to be friendly again.
Much of the debate focused on foreign policy. All the candidates said they were staunchly behind Israel as it mounts an offensive in Gaza following Hamas's October 7th attack that killed more than 1,400 people. They maintained hawkish stances on China, but were divided over funding for Ukraine in its ongoing fight against Russia's invasion. Meanwhile, Trump held a rival event nearby where he mocked the participants in Miami.
And it's time for the Republican establishment to stop wasting time and resources trying to push weak and ineffective rhinos and never-Trumpers that nobody wants and nobody's going to vote for. I watch these guys coming in. I had this thing and I was watching these guys. They're not watchable.
The former U.S. president also took aim at the Democrats' handling of domestic and international affairs. With the first Republican state nominating contest in Iowa a little more than 2 months away, Trump's rivals may not have many more chances to derail the commanding lead he holds among Republican voters in public opinion polling, despite being faced with multiple criminal indictments. Dan Norell, TV News.
Meanwhile, 3 giant pandas are returning to China after a long stay in the U.S. This report from NBC News.
Daybreak in Washington as the National Zoo's 3 biggest stars began their long journey home. After 5 decades, time has run out on the Smithsonian's Panda Exchange program with China.
It's been a hard week and it's been a hard morning.
Over the years, 8 bears, including 4 cubs, have captivated visitors from around the world.
I miss you. I really want to cuddle with you.
Returning to China today, 25-year-old Mei Xiang, 26-year-old Tian Tian, and 3-year-old Xiao Qiji. This afternoon, all three loaded onto a FedEx Panda Express plane, complete with 255 pounds of food for their 19-hour flight home.
Giant pandas belong to China. Giant pandas also belong to the world.
Their departure comes amid strained U.S.-Chinese relations. The exchange agreement signed 23 years ago expired this year. The last four in America at the Atlanta Zoo are set to return next year.
I cannot imagine the National Zoo. I cannot imagine Washington, D.C. without giant pandas, and I will do everything I can to bring them back.
Hoping that goodbye isn't forever. Tom Costello, NBC News at the National Zoo.
Companies set foot in the Shenzhen section of the Hotel Shenzhen Hong Kong Science and Technology Innovation Cooperation Zone eye the potential and benefits in the cooperation between the two cities. Sakura Ip went to take a look.
One of the most important ingredients in helping to save lives during the pandemic was processed here. Working with Pfizer in developing Paxlovid, an oral antiviral pill, this artificial intelligence and robotics-powered company significantly shortened the calculation time period in drugs development procedures from 6 months to 6 weeks. It took place in the Shenzhen section of the Hotel Shenzhen Hong Kong Science and Technology Innovation Cooperation Zone. The $2 billion company is eyeing the benefits from the region, including its proximity to and relationship with Hong Kong, one of the potential markets for listing in the future.
So the strategy is globalize. So Hong Kong will play a very important role as our one of the BD center and also the R&D center in future. Hong Kong is very international, very open, and has very sophisticated rules and policies in the financial market, and I think it will become our best choice in the future.
There are at least 100 AI working stations in the site working on various procedures in the drug development process, including overnight reactions with less manpower. The logistic company, which was listed in Shenzhen, said it enjoys the benefit of Hong Kong's international port.
The old cargoes from Futian to Hong Kong, Whitehouse, and through Hong Kong Airport and the seaports distributed to the Asia-Pacific cities.
Furthermore, a one-stop service center aiming to help newcomers has been in operation for 2 years. It provides services that include registrations and legal advisory. The center will dedicate an area for one-on-one service to personnel and companies from Hong Kong. With the I'm Smart system, users can log into the Guangdong Government Service Network to access the various government services in Guangdong Province. Sakura Ip, TVB News, Shenzhen.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.